And good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. We continue to roll on with our MRP and RGA Tech Summit. Up next, we have a Skype presentation from Facebook. There will be nobody on stage for this one, but there will be broadcast a PowerPoint presentation through the TV. We'll be able to hear George, and I do ask that you show respect as we have to those on stage by keeping your conversations down or taking them outside. With that, I'd like to welcome George Alafoginis from Facebook, and let's look forward to what he has to say.
Thanks, Kenny. Just to confirm, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me. I apologize for not being there in attendance. Just to confirm that you guys can see my presentation as well?
Yes, sir, we can.
Perfect. Well, let's jump right into it. My name is George Alafoginis, and I work for Facebook out of the Washington, D.C. office. What I really want to talk to you guys about today is kind of a change in direction of how Facebook is applying to the political space. If I was there, I would obviously ask everyone in the room to raise their hand if they're on Facebook. I'll just assume that a majority of you are in good faith. But really where I want to start is the big picture. If there are two things that you can take away from this meeting today or from my brief presentation, is to think of Facebook in the context of it representing all the people that matter to you, where you can find what matters to them. So if we think of the big picture and taking a step back, the way consumers spend time on media is shifting. Should not come without surprise. It's something that we're all very well of in our own personal habits, the amount of time we're spending watching TV versus how we're spending online in the digital space, how we're accessing, whether through a tablet, through a mobile phone. These things are shifting at a rapid pace. What we're finding for the most, and something that you'll see as a common theme throughout this talk, is that mobile is the preferred information consumption method. We're finding that within the mobile space, our users, these people, they want quick, frequent, close to natural speeds. As this plays out in the United States, and the slide you're looking at right now, we're finding that this trend is carrying over. We're finding that on a daily basis, of the 179 million monthly active users on Facebook, 101 million are actually accessing their mobile phone each and every day. Again, if I was there, and by a show of hands, I'd imagine that a number of individuals have their mobile phones with them right now. The concept of accessing individuals with their mobile phone is something that's constant, and it's something that represents a massive opportunity. Going in a little bit more towards that opportunity, fresh information that we have shows that 79% of smartphone users keep their phones with them for all but 2 waking hours of the day. I can hark back to my own personal use and thinking how I use my phone, and the fact that many of you have them with you there. Thinking of that opportunity, if we go back to that old digital phrase of being online, something that was coined very aptly by AOL, it's no longer if we're online or offline with mobile phones, with smartphones. It's more if we're awake or we're asleep. That opportunity for an organization, for a campaign, for an advocacy effort to at any point in time reach out to an individual because they have these mobile phones is a very powerful thing. And we're finding that not only are these individuals keeping their smartphones with them a majority of the day, but what they're doing on those mobile phones, 1 out of every 5 minutes on them is being spent either with Facebook or with Instagram. We always highlight Instagram, and for those that are not aware of this, it is a part of Facebook, but it's a very powerful thing to think that 1 every 5 minutes an individual spending on their mobile phone is one that can be actually spent on the platform. So in thinking of actually including that into your strategies and thinking of including that into how you're actually reaching potential voters is something that we find very, very key. So going back to that overarching thing of finding all the people that matter to you, 101 daily on mobile each and every day, which is twice as the amount of individuals that are actually tuning in for the Super Bowl, where they're finding out what matters to them. And that's happening on mobile devices. Once on mobile devices, we're finding that where they're finding out this information is in newsfeed. For those of you that are not familiar with Newsfeed is that homepage when you're logging in on desktop or in mobile. We find that when it comes from a discovery standpoint, if you kind of think of how individuals are actually finding information, and I would pose this question to all of you in the audience of how you find information, we're finding that a majority of individuals are socially discovering links, news articles, stories, updates to their campaigns. I know that when I actually log into my own personal profile, based off of the different politicians that I file, based off of the stories that my friends are sharing, it is through those connections that I'm actually directing to that donation page, through that article that's been linked off from Drudge. We're finding that social discovery is a very, very powerful thing, and this discovery is actually happening within the newsfeed. So again, all the people that matter to you, where they find out what matters to them, newsfeed is that prime location. And for all of you that are actually running campaigns now or putting together strategies, I would highly recommend positioning the stories, the compelling content that you're trying to share with potential voters, with people in specific areas, and focusing that content within the newsfeed. So going to dive a little bit more into newsfeed, hopefully share some basic premise of how we actually think about this. For all of those Facebook page admins in the audience, and something that I'm sure you're commonly aware of when you log in each day, but this is what your page looks like to you. It's something that is very common, but if we think through how we're trying to reach potential voters, we should really think of how they're actually receiving confirmation or information. So this is what your page looks like to you, but that same information that you're trying to convey is different. This is what your page looks like to them. So what you're seeing here is that same page post at the top of that page from the National Republican Congressional Committee, but actually inserted between the actual baby photo into an individual's newsfeed. It's something that we always like to, as the best practice, have people keep at the top of their mind, is that you're actually competing with the social connections, the relationships that individuals have between friends, family, between other brands that are out there. So we'll get into this later on with page content and some best practices, but this is how individuals are actually consuming the information, the stories that are important to them. They're consuming them through news. Being mindful of what you're competing of is major best practice and something that we see going a long way to successful campaigns. In addition to the newsfeed being the center of the experience within the Facebook on both desktop and mobile, we've actually made some major introductions that have definitely increased the efficiency of newsfeed, and even more so now, recommending pushing stories there. There are over 50 potential newsfeed stories from people they follow, the pages, and what we found is that a majority of individuals did not have time. If you kind of thought of it as the newsfeed as a personal newspaper, the ability for you to follow that newspaper, not have it pass through you because you're not on Facebook all day. We've actually made some changes to allow to prioritize top stories. So around 300 to 1,500 stories to show each day. How we're actually prioritizing that is based off of the indications that you're actually sharing. How often you're actually interacting with the campaign page. How often you're actually liking, commenting, sharing on a specific post. These are all indicators that we actually will take into consideration in prioritizing this daily newspaper to make sure that the correct information is reaching individuals. On top of this, there always is that opportunity to insert specific stories through promoting them from the page into a target audience's newsfeed, but it's something to be mindful of when actually engaging in an ongoing conversation to make sure that people are engaging with the content, asking individuals to take an action, liking, commenting, sharing, posing questions, creating a dialogue. These are all best practices that will actually help increase the visibility of your stories, of the different calls to actions that you have for campaigns. And as it gets into the more tactical direct response, help drive specific actions such as donations, email acquisitions, other specific political actions. In addition to this, what we're finding now is that organic stories that people did not scroll down far enough to see, as I said earlier, these stories are still getting lots of likes and comments, and we'll actually take that into consideration to make sure that those things are reprioritized based off of those levels of engagement. So from an update impact and kind of the raw numbers of what we're seeing, with these changes, not only in the way we're surfacing content, making sure that we're being more mindful of positioning stories that in front of the individual users that we know want to see them, we're finding that across the board, there's a great number of likes, comments, shares, and other organic stories people see in feeds. We're also seeing that on average, 50% of the stories in individual news feeds that we're not seeing, that we're scrolling up, are now being resurfaced. When unread stories resurface, the fractions of reads increase by 70%. So those compelling stories and that content that you're pushing out to individuals, the ability for them to actually follow up with that and actually reestablish with campaign, reestablish with a specific call to action, as you can see here, the Heritage Foundations. We're hopefully making them for a more richer experience on the platform and making more sure that more of your content is reaching that end user that you would like to take a specific action. So this brings us to my last slide. And then if there were questions, I'm not sure how much time I have left. I know it was quick 20 minutes to go. But for those individuals that are out there that are thinking through their page strategy, take into consideration that you can reach specific voters. The way that you're reaching them is through newsfeed. Being mindful of these kind of 6 best practices are something that's going to see success, whether that's driving native engagement on the platform or actually more in the direct response world of driving people to take action, such as an email address or a donation. As I said earlier, really posting succinct content. All the individual page admins know the types of stories that are going to actually evoke emotion from a specific user. We find that not only knowing your audience, but positioning vivid images and engaging videos are going to be extremely successful in actually getting those individuals to take action. The most successful posts when it comes to media on Facebook are photos, far and away. We've all heard of that saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. It seems to be true, and it seems to be worth tens of thousands of actions and likes, comments, or shares on the platform. The same can be said with video. As we actually perfect Facebook's video product, we're seeing more action there, but at the same time, the success of individuals taking YouTube content, positioning that on the platform to make sure that we're driving awareness or driving persuasion around a specific campaign video is something that we're seeing great success with. Another thing that we're seeing great success with in a content best practice is something to show behind the scenes. I think that we've all been on a campaign trail before and has seen success in actually showing the candidate, behind the scenes what's going on. It's just something when it comes to the content calendar and to actually creating a social strategy or kind of the strategy for what you're trying to actually engage users with is something that we find lots of success. Be timely. We all see to cross digital that the rapid response era is gone from a 30-second soundbite to a 2-second to 3-second tweet. But the ability for you to be timely in the response, open up that dialogue based off of news events, based off of an inflection point that you see open up within a campaign or around a specific issue is something that's huge. Going back to kind of the call to action aspect of all of this, asking individuals to take a specific action is always going to be follow up with those individuals taking that action. So whether it is asking someone to take a like, a comment, or a share, or asking someone to drive off-site to take a more direct down the funnel action, it's something that we find great success with. I'm not sure how many in the audience are familiar with Facebook hashtags, but it's something that we've seen great success, whether it's TBT, which is Throwback Thursday. It's something that works across actually Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook. The ability for you guys to create those inflection points, to actually ask individuals to associate this tag with the dialogue and the conversation is just another thought that we've seen great success with and engages an audience and a community beyond just that lightweight action of a like, comment, or share. And then the last one is really posting regularly. I think across the board, we see a lot of different studies that come out that say when the best time to post on Facebook is or when it is not. Each individual page, each campaign, each issue is specific to a specific audience. There's a high and low tide of when those individual fans or when that potential audience is on the platform. So what I would say is one of the great things that we actually offer from on the free side is those page insights so that you can better understand your audience. a better understanding of that audience is going to lead towards understanding when they will be more compelled to take that specific action. We know that we have a specific piece of political information that is going to drive some emotional response, making sure it's positioning it to them when they're actually on the platform or when they're on their mobile phone is something where we see is a huge best practice when it comes to content, and something that you can easily find out from page insights. I'm not sure how I am on time, but I do thank you all for the opportunity to talk with you guys today. I do apologize for not being there. And with that, I believe I'll turn it back over to the presenters, unless there are any questions that I can dive a little bit deeper into any of my slides.
Thank you, George, very much for joining us. Unfortunately, we don't have any time for questions, but we do appreciate your presentation very much, and are especially happy that you were able to have Congressman Ryan join you for the presentation in the background there.
Yes, I wasn't sure if you saw that. He was he's hanging out in the back of our office. Our very interesting, as you can see with the decor of the wall. It looks like we're in a bunker, but I do appreciate you guys putting up with this Skype, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of this great conference.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too.